The night was cool and heavy with memories, as if the dark sky itself carried the weight of the past. I remember a story whispered on winds through sprawling branches of an ancient oak, that carried with it the echoes of an old man's bittersweet journey, a tale woven with love, loss, and the fragile threads of hope. In a small town in rural America, where every face held a secret and every road bore the marks of time, there lived a man named Henry Calloway. Henry was a quiet soul, his eyes lined with the traces of countless sunsets, and his hands bore the marks of years spent tending to his garden and repairing the splintered wood of life. His home, a modest farmhouse on the outskirts of a place that had seen generations come and go, was dominated by the presence of one towering oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching skyward like the outstretched arms of a forgotten friend. There was something almost mystical about that tree. It wasn't merely an old oak. It was a living monument to the years Henry had witnessed, a silent chronicler of his joys and sorrows. The tree had grown up beside him as he grew up, its limbs stretching toward the heavens as he reached for his dreams. In its sturdy trunk and delicate leaves, Henry saw his own life reflected, a life of quiet resilience and profound, sometimes hidden emotions. I remember how he would sit beneath its generous shade on long summer afternoons, sharing with the tree the stories of his youth, his love for a woman lost to time, and the hope he had once dared to nurture in his heart. Henry's journey with the oak began in his childhood, when he first discovered that trees could listen. It was a time when innocence met wonder, and every whispered secret felt like an incantation that could change the world. In those halcyon days, the tree was his confidant. It witnessed his first taste of heartbreak when his best friend moved away. It absorbed the laughter of countless afternoons spent climbing its limbs, and it bore silent witness to the budding of his first love. As he grew older, that love matured into a passion for life and for the people around him, even as the weight of time began to bend the branches of his soul. Years passed, and the small town changed with the steady, inevitable rhythm of time. New faces came, and old ones faded away. Yet the oak tree remained constant, a sentinel of memory and a keeper of all that was lost and cherished. When Henry's wife, Eleanor, passed away after a long, quiet battle with illness, the tree bore witness to his grief. On many evenings after her passing, Henry could be found sitting under the oak, his eyes distant, recalling the way her laughter once danced among the leaves. Each leaf, it seemed, carried a piece of her spirit, fluttering in the wind, as if to remind him that though she was gone, she was still there, forever intertwined with the natural tapestry of his life. I can still hear the soft murmur of his voice as he recounted the memories to anyone willing to listen, a series of moments so tender and so painful that they defied the boundaries of time. He told of a crisp autumn afternoon when the tree's leaves turned a fiery red, mirroring the passion and fervor of his youth. He recalled the summer nights when the chirps of crickets and the rustle of the leaves became a lullaby that soothed his weary soul. But most of all, Henry spoke of the secret promise the tree had made to him. One day, as a young man, he had carved their initials, a simple H next to a delicate into the tree's weathered bark, a token of undying love and hope. For Henry, that act was not just one of youthful impulsivity, but a pledge that the tree would always remember and keep safe the flame of their love. But as all stories in life, the winds of fate did not always blow gently. With each passing year, the tree grew older and the scars of time became more pronounced on its bark. The community whispered in hushed tones about the day when the oak might finally fall, a day that would mark the end of an era and the beginning of a sorrow too vast to measure. And so it was, in the deep winter of his later years, that Henry found himself facing the relentless march of destiny. The town, now modern and busy, had begun to see the old tree as an inconvenience, a relic that must eventually be removed to make way for progress. But to Henry, it was the very embodiment of his soul, the keeper of every smile and tear that he had ever shed. As the final winter's chill set in, the decision was made. The oak was to be cut down. The news struck Henry like a devastating storm. In a voice choked with despair, he pleaded with the town council, recounting the oak's significance as if trying to remind them that some things are beyond the scope of mere progress. But progress, as it often does, paid little heed to the delicate tendrils of memory and emotion. The day came when heavy machinery rumbled onto the once sacred grounds, and Henry, heartbroken, stood by with tear-streaked cheeks as the first blade bit into the ancient trunk. There was an eerie silence that day, a silence filled with the weight of lost promises and shattered dreams. As the trunk split and the mighty oak began to crack, Henry's mind raced back through the decades. His childhood laughter, his first love's gentle touch, the bittersweet farewell of a cherished friend, and the countless evenings spent under the embrace of that timeless tree. In that heart-wrenching moment, the oak did not simply fall. It collapsed under the burden of a lifetime of memories, each splintered piece carrying the ghost of a past too precious to let go. The old man's grief was a palpable thing, a raw emotion that seemed to ripple through the chilled air, mingling with the falling snow. The townspeople, though sympathetic, could not grasp the profundity of his loss. They had grown used to the practicalities of modern life, and in their pursuit of efficiency, had forgotten the sanctity of the natural world, a world where every tree, every leaf, held the quiet dignity of lived experience. For Henry, the tree was not just a part of the landscape. It was a silent testament to a life well lived, a repository of all the joys and sorrows that had defined him. As the days grew shorter and the nights darker, Henry retreated further into himself. The farmhouse, once filled with the gentle hum of memories and the comforting presence of the past, now echoed with a profound emptiness. Each creak of the wooden floors, each sigh of the wind against the window, served as a reminder of what had been lost. Neighbors tried to reach out, offering small tokens of consolation. A warm meal here, a few kind words there, but nothing could fill the void left by the absence of the oak. In its place, a gaping wound in the heart of the town, a wound that would never truly heal. Yet, even in the depths of despair, there flickered a stubborn ember of resilience in Henry. He began to wander the old trails around the farm, retracing steps that had once led him to the comforting shade of the oak. In the quiet of early mornings, when the dew still clung to the grass and the world was wrapped in a fragile silence, he would pause and listen to the whispers of the wind. It was as though the spirit of the tree still lingered, murmuring soft reassurances that life, despite its relentless march toward change, always held a place for memory and love. There were moments when he felt the gentle caress of a cool breeze that carried with it the faintest hint of Eleanor's perfume, a reminder that, though the physical form of the tree was gone, its spirit had not entirely vanished. In his solitary wanderings, Henry began to collect fragments of the past, a stray leaf here, a splinter of bark there. He pressed these treasures between the pages of a worn leather journal, creating a mosaic of moments that celebrated both the beauty and the transience of life. The pages became a sacred repository of his memories, a testament to the enduring power of love and the bittersweet nature of loss. Every word he wrote was a defiant stand against the encroaching void, a plea to the universe that even as things change, the essence of what we hold dear can never be truly erased. But time, as it always does, marched on with a cruel indifference to human sentiment. The seasons turned, and winter gave way to the tentative promise of spring. New trees were planted along the barren roadside, their tender shoots a symbol of renewal. Yet in the quiet corners of the farm, a solitary figure, Henry, continued his pilgrimage through the corridors of memory, haunted by the ghost of the oak. His once bright eyes had dulled with the weight of years and the pain of unspoken farewells, and his hands, once steady and strong, now trembled with the effort of holding onto the remnants of a past that seemed to fade with every passing day. One crisp evening, as twilight stretched its long shadows across the land, Henry sat on the weathered porch of his farmhouse. The sky was a tapestry of indigo and deep violet, scattered with the first glimmers of stars. In that quiet moment, as the world around him slumbered, Henry's mind drifted to the final conversation he had ever shared with the oak. It was not a conversation of words, for the tree had long ceased to speak in the language of the living. Rather, it was a communion of souls, a silent understanding that transcended the boundaries of time and space. In that unspoken exchange, Henry felt both the immense beauty and the overwhelming sadness of a life that had been, and that now, like the seasons, must eventually come to an end. As the night deepened, so did the shadow of melancholy that had quietly settled over Henry's heart. The memories of a shared past, of endless summers and whispered secrets, began to merge with the cold reality of solitude. The old man's breath grew shallow, and the once vibrant cadence of his heart faltered, as though the final act of a long, painful performance was drawing near. In that hushed moment, with the stars bearing silent witness and the wind softly echoing the long-forgotten lullabies of youth, Henry closed his eyes and let the darkness embrace him. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to reunite him with the spirit of the oak, to transport him back to that sacred place where time stood still and every memory was cherished. The end came quietly, without grand fanfare, a single exhalation in the stillness of a starry night. When a morning light finally crept over the horizon, the townspeople found Henry seated on the porch, his expression peaceful yet haunted by the echoes of 1,000 unspoken words. In that final, silent moment, it was clear that the old man had joined the realm of memories, where the oak still stood tall, and every leaf sang of a love that defied the ravages of time. His passing was a somber reminder of the ephemeral nature of life, of the bittersweet beauty found in every farewell, and of the enduring power of memories that remain long after the physical world has changed. In the days that followed, the farmhouse grew quiet and still, a poignant relic of a life that had been rich with both joy and sorrow. Neighbors often spoke in hushed tones about Henry's final days, the way he would wander the familiar paths, pausing to touch a blooming flower or a weathered fence post, as if to capture the essence of moments long past. They recalled how he would sit silently, his eyes reflecting a profound sadness mixed with a fierce, unyielding love for the life he had known. The old man's legacy, intertwined with the fate of the venerable oak, lived on in the memories of those who remembered him, in the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, and in the quiet hum of nature reclaiming its space. In a way, the story of Henry and the oak was not merely one of loss, but also of the beauty inherent in every fleeting moment. It was a reminder that while the relentless march of time may erode the physical markers of our lives, the emotions, the connections, and the memories we share persist in the quiet corners of the heart. And so, in every gust of wind that swept through the town, in every falling leaf that danced briefly before touching the earth, there lingered the echo of a man who had loved deeply, who had cherished every stolen moment beneath an ancient tree, and who had ultimately surrendered himself to the inexorable passage of time. For those who knew Henry's story, the image of the old man and his beloved oak became a symbol of all that was beautiful and tragic about life itself. It spoke of the resilience required to carry on in a world that often seems indifferent to our struggles, and of the quiet dignity that comes from embracing both joy and sorrow in equal measure. Even as the years passed and the town grew busier, the legend of Henry Calloway and his timeless oak continued to be whispered among the rustling leaves, a melancholic lullaby that stirred the soul and reminded everyone that the greatest stories are etched not in stone, but in the ever-shifting tapestry of memory and emotion. As I recount this tale to you now, dear listener, I sense that you too carry a fragment of that timeless truth within you. The story of Henry and his cherished tree is a testament to the fragile beauty of life, a narrative of love, loss, and the bittersweet moments that define our existence. It is a reminder that even when the physical world changes and the voices of the past fade into silence, The memories we hold dear continue to live on, whispering softly in the winds of tomorrow. And though the ending is undeniably sorrowful, there is solace in knowing that the bonds we form, with nature, with loved ones, and with the memories that shape us, are eternal, transcending the boundaries of time and the finality of loss. Thus, in the quiet hours of the night, when the moon casts its gentle glow over empty fields and forgotten roads, the spirit of an old man and his magnificent oak tree still lingers. It is in the murmur of the wind through the trees, in the soft rustle of leaves underfoot, and in the silent, heartfelt memories of every soul that has ever loved and lost. This, dear listener, is the legacy of Henry Callaway, a story of hope, sorrow, and the unyielding power of memory that endures long after we have all said our final farewell.